the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
In exactly 15 seconds, we'll be on the air.
KAKU 88.5 FM.
Okay, here we go.
Kahalui, Maui.
Quiet, please.
The voice of Maui.
Welcome to The Nature of Your Nature. Come home to You Know More with Dr. Valerie Simonson on KAKU 88.5 FM, The Voice of Maui, broadcasting from Akaku Maui Community Media Center in downtown Kahului. Aloha. Welcome to The Nature of Your Nature. I'm Dr. Valerie Simonson, and we're being sponsored by You Know More, our nonprofit that is helping healthcare providers, first responders, educators, and community leaders. And we have a special guest today. We've got the vice president for our nonprofit, Maria Nauer. Thank you for being with us today, Maria.
Aloha. Thank you for having me here.
Maria and I have known each other a long time.
Yes.
Couple kids, right? But you have a really interesting background in wellness, and actually that's still what you're doing, but you started out really young in the wellness industry.
I did. I believe I was 16 years old when I first worked in a beauty salon. My mother's a hairdresser, my father's a barber. I come from this line of hairdressers, but for me, I was really into skincare and makeup. That was my thing. And so, I went to college when I was 17. So for a year, I worked as an apprentice in a beauty spa because I was too young to go to college. Oh. And then I went to college for 2 years in the UK and took 22 exams and graduated so that I could work internationally anywhere in the world because I knew I wanted to travel. Yeah.
And thus you came to Maui eventually, right?
Yes. I had my own spa in the UK for nearly 10 years, and we were one of the first holistic alternative health and beauty salons, we called it back then.
What does holistic mean?
Well, holistic is about treating the whole person, right?
With a W?
The whole of the person.
Yeah, WHOLE, whole person.
Mm-hmm. But what does that mean? That's talking about not just the physical body, right? The skin's, the bone, the muscle. It's also talking about our emotional body, our mental field, and then the human energy field that some people call the aura, but the human energy field of the body, the chakra system of the body, all of these systems, they interweave together and they all weave together, and we see wellness when all of these systems are working in harmony together.
And you've worked a lot of different places on the island, but you have your own business that you run, and it's called, what is the name of your business, and what's your website?
My business name is Maria Gold Wellness, and my website is mariagoldwellness.com.
That's easy to remember.
Yeah.
mariagoldwellness.com. Thank you. Thank you. Want to just talk a little bit about the nature of your nature. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about it this morning as I was on the farm and just looking at the earth and what we see on where we're placing our feet. That would be the skin of the earth, right? Mm-hmm. But in our bodies, we have the skin. And I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit more about this. But some people don't or never learn that your skin takes in everything that's from the outside. And when we have skin issues, you treat the root of the disease, not necessarily something topically, right? Do you want to talk just a little bit about that from your experience? And that's a long time. It's a lot of experience.
Well, I think the important thing to remember about the skin is that it's the largest organ in the body, right? And its main job is to detoxify the body. So we can use the skin to bring nourishment into the body, but it's also its main job is to help to detox the body along with the liver. So healthy skin is about healthy digestion as well, right? What's going on in the stomach. What we eat, we see reflected in the skin, right? So if we're eating foods that are loaded with toxins, we're going to find that our skin is going to need to clean them out. So what does that look like? We might find that, we have a pimple here or there.
Right.
If we're not bringing in enough nourishment into the skin, healthy oils, things like that, what does that look like? We might find we've got dry skin. If we're eating a lot of hot and spicy food, we might find that our skin is reactive. Maybe it's red, maybe it's sensitive. And then it goes, kind of deeper than that as well. If you look at, say, in Ayurvedic medicine, we would look at the different doshas of a person, and the skin is different for each dosha. So when you've got vata, you've got air and ether, and we find the skin in those doshas is drier because there's air, there's ether, but there's no oil, there's no water. So that skin type's going to really benefit from a hydration that's based in oils, like sesame oil, for example, which is a heavier, thicker oil that's going to really nourish the skin. And then we find the constitution of pitta is oil and water, oil and fire. So they already have a lot of oil in their skin. So you find these skin types, they don't want to put oil on their skin. They already have a lot of oil. And they need to watch that they don't eat too much oil. Otherwise, you're going to see they'll have an oily T-zone going on in that area. And we see it in the T-zone. We call the T-zone the side of the nose and the top of the forehead, because this is where we've got more sebaceous glands. And they're the glands that secrete the natural oils that help to keep the balance of the pH on the skin.
So you have beautiful skin.
Oh, thank you.
And we had a meeting one day for our board meeting, and we were at your home, and you were running a little bit late, and you said, oh, wait, I got to go put my lipstick on. And I'm sitting there, and I'm just like, oh, my God, this woman takes care of herself so that you feel what? When you put your lipstick on, what does it do for you?
I think it's about self-care on like a deeper level. I think it's really about taking care of myself. So, I love to have my hair done. I love to do my makeup. I love to have my skincare done. And for me, the lipstick is about, it's the self-care. It's the feeling taken care of. It's feeling polished. I make my children laugh because I'm like, well, if I ended up on a desert island and I could only take 3 things, it would probably be lipstick would be one of those 3 things, as long as I have my lipstick.
Yeah.
But, when I was younger, and I looked so young when I was young. I looked really young, and I had one of those faces that actually, if you put makeup on it, I looked somewhat of a clown. I didn't wear makeup well when I was younger. So I really dove into skincare. And I still believe today that the natural beauty of the skin shines through any makeup. So back then when I was a makeup artist, I was doing what is now fashionably the nude look, right? Where you're looking like you don't have much makeup on. Because I think the key is to really just enhance your natural beauty. And the foundation of that is having good skin. And then enhancing your eyes and enhancing your lips, but not creating a mask that you don't recognize this person anymore, that you don't look like your true self, right?
Which brings us back to the nature of your nature, right?
Yeah.
Come home
Yeah.
to you no more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing to really meditate upon is that radiant glow that comes through the skin, that comes through your eyes, that really comes from nourishing yourself within, whether that's through your meditation, through yoga, through breath work, really being connected to yourself, knowing who you are and having that connection with the divine within you, so that you have a sparkly shine about you that comes out from your eyes and radiates in your skin. That's the best skincare you can have.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And in your skin are all these cells, and each one of them has a mitochondria that is light focused. And so even as you touch your skin or use, I know you like to use essential oils in your world. As we do these things, what it brings is life and more light into the cells.
Absolutely. And it's really interesting that the skin cells actually, the cells of the whole body, they spin in like a clockwise.
I didn't know
direction. And a healthy cell will spin in that way. And if a cell starts to become unhealthy, the spin of it starts to slow down. And then it starts to kind of stop and stagnate. And then it starts to kind of go the opposite direction. And that's when we're moving to a place of disease, where we're going to see disease coming up. So, yeah, the health of the body is based upon a healthy cell. For sure. Yeah.
And just share a little bit of what's your experience with breath and how our breath affects the cell.
Well, it's about oxygenation, right?
Oh.
So it's bringing oxygen into the body. So oxygenation, the oxygen's carried through our blood, right? So as we breathe in, we're breathing into the lungs. And this is where aromatherapy really comes in, right? How do we breathe in oil, and how does that end up affecting every cell in our body? Well, because we breathe it through the nose, it comes into the lungs through a process called osmosis. It comes into the bloodstream, and then the blood cells deliver the nutrients from the essential oil to all the cells in the body. And so the blood's carrying oxygen as well, right? So when we're breathing, I think it's also about calming down the body. Like when we're focusing on our breath, and when we're doing deep breathing in the breath, breathing in the nose. And in, some of the yogic practices, you would breathe in for a certain amount of counts, and then you would hold your breath, and then you would breathe out. Just having this level of awareness of your breath starts to not only oxygenate the cells from that kind of physiology kind of perspective, but it calms the whole body. And most importantly, the mind, right? So much the mind is active, and the mind is governing what's going on in the body. So when you focus on your breathing, it calms down the mind. And if you bring in mantra with that, even if you just use the word Om, you start to bring in a vibration that's healing for the body as well, that the mind can focus on that sound and on that mantra.
And in most religious practices, they have their own way of mantras, whether it's reading the Bible or whatever it is, right? And it brings it in that focus, right?
Yeah. Even waking up in the morning and having the mantra of I am well, I am happy, today is a blessed day. It sets your day up for a good day, right?
It does.
Yeah. And speaking in that present, I am happy, I am well, I am whole. That's the key to bringing yourself into that realization in the present moment, in what's happening right now in this moment. And I think breathing helps to bring you into this moment right now. So it helps to stop the mind kind of racing forward into the future and kind of worrying, because we don't quite know what tomorrow's going to look like. And to stop the mind going backwards too, where we think about the past, which is not healthy for us because we can't change the past. The past is the past. It's healthy for us to move on. We can reflect, and we might learn some lessons there, right? How we might want to improve. But I think just a daily reflection of, how did I do today? And how can I do better for myself tomorrow? And then that's it. Then you move on to the next day and be present in that day.
Beautiful. It's what I'm hearing you say is taking accountability for ourselves, right? And setting up that roadmap that we can follow through the day by being present.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, and when we look at ourselves, there's an awareness with that, right? And when we become aware of ourselves, we do that through self-reflection of how was our day? At the end of the night when we're going to sleep, how was our day? What might we have done differently? How could we grow? And in there is an evolution opportunity, right? That we can look at that.
Right.
And the next day, we hope we're going to wake up in the morning and we get to do it all again with this level of awareness, so that we have the opportunity to grow every day.
Yeah. And bringing in gratitude.
Yeah.
I know that's one of the things. Everything is a teacher for me.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So I had a situation a couple days ago that was definitely pushing my buttons. Right? And I reacted instead of just being present.
Right.
And I went, okay, here is an opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
To evolve.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so everything is our teacher. But with that, there's so many things that we get exposed to, especially politically. And the world, we know it's in the earth is in a huge evolution. We as humans are in evolution. And yet these systems that have been set up that have been, quote, the structures that we follow our life, they're dissolving. They just don't work anymore, right? And so those voices get louder and louder, and then we get hit by it, and it's not so easy just to stay right here, right?
Yeah, it's not so easy, but I think it's good to remember that what you really want to do is stay in love. And it's thinking about the best case scenario. I met a teacher out in Costa Rica when I was teaching out there, and I called him Mr. Happiness. And he taught happiness workshops, how to help people be happy. And his theory was, you think best case scenario. So when something's coming up, you think about what would be the best case scenario? How do I want this to end? That's the best case scenario. And that's what you think about. And what you think is what you create, right? So we need to become so aware of what we're thinking before we even open our mouths, right? Because that's what's setting the tone of reality that we're choosing to live in. So if we really want to change what's going on in the world, we've really got to change what's going on with the internal dialogue within ourselves.
Yeah, the Ho'oponopono. Fix it inside, it fixes it on the outside. I was just with a client just a few hours ago, and they're going to an interview, and they're beautiful. They're a model, and they just are stunning. Their clothing is stunning and all of that. And they have an idea of what they want for money, right? And it's pretty, they're not going to settle for less than that. And then we did the practice run. Right? And she just imagined herself walking into this room with a presence, not a jockey presence, but just the presence of her being, right? The nature of her nature, right? And when we implement that in our life, think about, what is it that I do want? Stay present, but what do I want? Okay, today, you know what? That didn't work so well for me when I did X, Y, Z. Now, what do I want to do different tomorrow?
Yeah. And I think it's key to remember to really accept ourselves as we are. This self-love thing sounds like just, a cliche of self-love, but it's so true. We have to accept ourselves if we want to move into that space of self-love. And that's the good, the bad, and the ugly, It's loving ourselves on all of those levels. And that's where, the growth can really happen as well. And trusting as well that everything is how it's meant to be. Even though at the time it might not feel like that, we might not be able to see, like, why is this going on? But I find we often can look back and go, oh, that's what that was all about.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that in about self-love. I have a person that's dealing with a pretty serious condition, and it's been quite a while, 8 chemotherapy treatments.
Wow.
And their body's going through what that goes through. But when we really got down into the roots of things, the issue was they didn't love themselves, didn't accept themselves. So we spent quite a bit of time yesterday talking about that whole thing. I didn't say anything. They talked until, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And this morning when I talked, they were great.
Yeah.
They were
that's
great.
Lovely. Yeah.
Self-acceptance, right? Self-love.
Yeah. Well, and it's peeling back the layers of all the conditions and all the judgments that have been put on us all our lives since we were young children. We've been programmed through our parents, through society itself. We are a product of our society, and the programming has happened on many levels. And so we kind of peel back those layers until we get to remember who we are, right? Which is coming back to more again, right? It's knowing who you are.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's layers upon layers to kind of work through.
And I have found that things come to me so that I can heal that layer.
Yes.
Like, oh my God, I dealt with this 30 years ago and it's back again. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Right? But
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
the whole process, right?
Yeah. And isn't it a saying that it will keep coming back until you really get it? And we can think that we've got it, but it's actually, again, so many layers of that you've got it on one level, then it will come back another way. And you're like, oops, there it is again. Or you might not even realize it till afterwards. Right?
And I want to go into relationships with that.
Right.
You know, we can change relationships, but it's going to be the same situation until you work through whatever this issue is, right? Maybe a different person you're dating or being with, but it's the same issue. When you get that done, it's like there's this knowingness in your being, like karma done.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah. And it's remembering that we're just a mirror for one another as well,
True.
right? This blame game is not working. It doesn't work for any of us. And again, about taking accountability, right? When we recognize that what we see in another is what we see in ourselves, and having mercy and grace and kindness with one another, and really knowing who we are in that reflection. And not making it about the other, right? Because it's not about the other. It is about us.
Right.
And that's where some really yummy healing can happen, right? But sometimes it's not so easy because sometimes there's pain there. But the pain is there to wake us up, right? We're being called to wake up. And the pain is only there for that. And then we can move through that. If you face your fears, face your pain, and move through it.
And then always remember where you've been.
Yeah.
You know, you were just a little kid, pretty much, in England, right?
Right.
Working in the spa industry, and now you've gone through all these different places all over the world, and you just keep on evolving. The one thing that I know for sure about you, you are an eternal student. You love to learn, and you always ask really good questions. Like when we're in a situation with our nonprofit, you're the one that says, can I ask a question about this? Can you help me understand this? And I'm like, here she goes, right? And then it's like the earth gets, okay, we've got a hole here. Now what are we going to do with this, right?
Yeah.
Which is a beautiful aspect of your being. And I think we all have that.
Yeah.
Maybe some people have more ease with that than others, but it's there inside of us all, right?
Yeah. I've always had that level of attention to detail somehow.
Oh boy, do you do.
Yeah, which is great when you're working on a project or trying to put something together, working for, in corporations like I did for 21 years here on the island. That attention to detail's helpful for doing something in that realm. And the key is, I think, the throat chakra of having the courage to open your mouth and ask the questions, right? Because so many times we're shut down for that.
Right.
And the throat chakra is shut down.
And this is the throat chakra, which is the voice box. It's also the thyroid, and more women have problems with thyroid than men because they tend to kind of not speak up, right? But we're seeing a lot of shift with that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring it back to attention to detail and bring it back to these bodies, this place where we live, right?
Yeah.
And our body will give us the messages, these little, hey,
Right.
right? And sometimes it's a whoppa, right? Okay, you haven't listened? Let me do it, make it really loud, right?
Yeah.
Talk about a little more about that with your body, with the body.
Yeah, I think it's really about listening to the whispers in your body. Like we start to feel that, we've not had enough sleep. We're maybe not in balance in our work-home environment. We're maybe not eating well. And we can power along like that for quite a long time. And then you might start to notice that maybe your digestion's not working so well. Maybe you're getting a little headache here and there. Maybe you're feeling some tension around your neck and shoulders. And, really before that point, hopefully you're thinking about, I should really drink more water. Maybe I need to drink more lemon water. Maybe I should take some hikes into my being instead of being in the office all day, and have some community time with other people. Make sure I get an early night. I mean, the pillars of health are really simple in a way. It's regulating your sleep, right? Having a good night's sleep, exercise, having a good exercise routine, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's swimming, hiking, yoga, being in the gym, healthy
Dancing.
food, dancing, healthy food, right? Which we can talk a long time about that, but
We
just
sure can.
trying to not put toxins in your body is a good way to start. So there's sleep, there's exercise, there's food, there's weight, which kind of ties into the food, right? And not drinking alcohol. Like
Wow,
those
good
5
for you.
pillars of
Yeah.
health are,
Yeah.
I mean, they're so simple.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was at Duke, I did the leadership in health and well-being program at Duke University, and we studied all these research papers around well-being, and that was where some of those stats came out of, like, that's the simple 5 things that we need to do to be healthy. But such a small percentage of the population chooses to live like that. And if we just made that small shift into just those simple 5 things, we would be so much healthier as a community and as a nation.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard somebody this morning telling me they'd lost 15 pounds. And the reason why is because of neuropathy in their feet, and they couldn't see their feet because of their belly, and they couldn't get on the ladder anymore. They couldn't go downstairs because of their knees. And 15 pounds made a huge, huge difference in their life.
Yeah.
But when they broke it down, they ate less, right? Smaller portions, but they also quit alcohol.
Yeah.
And they've been, I think, 40 days without alcohol. And he said, I know that is the biggest factor in my body making these shifts. I have less pain. But what do we do? Because alcohol is a great medicator, right? And it's also a great social thing. I know when I was in medical school, I quit drinking when I was in my early 20s, but in medical school, it was pretty stressful. And I got turned on to flower essence, this rescue remedy.
Yeah.
Right. And we had this tragedy thing happen, and I got home and we were all trying to figure out how to deal with it. And I brought out a wine glass and we put a drop of rescue remedy. And that's from England, right?
Yeah.
Isn't Dr. Bach from,
Remedies. Yeah, absolutely.
and put just a drop in the water.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there on the steps. And about probably in a half an hour, we just started laughing about this situation, because the situation was happening, didn't have anything to do with us.
Yeah.
It was the powers to be, right?
Yeah. Well, the flower essences are great because they're working on the emotional body.
Yeah.
And that's what's so great about them. So the flower essences that we had through You Know More were fantastic. They're so powerful. And, just to calm down trauma in the body, to open up the heart, to help with the environmental stresses in the body. Flower essences are fabulous for that. And as is homeopathy, it's very subtle medicine, but it's very powerful.
Very powerful.
Very powerful, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you find that the less toxins and everything you're putting in the body, the more aware you become of your body, and you get more sensitive, and you'll hear the whispers sooner, and maybe you'll reach for a flower essence sooner, or homeopathy, or acupuncture, or yoga, or some of these tools that we have that are to help us heal ourselves, right? Before we're reaching into a time of disease, whether it's acute or chronic, or whether it's an accident or muscles, not working how they should, whatever it might be, the less you put the toxins in the body, you start to become more aware, and you can feel, because the alcohol, honestly, it's the numbing, isn't it? It numbs it out.
It does.
It numbs it out. And what we want is more awareness.
Yeah, and it's so interesting, that whole system, when we were in COVID, the bars were still able to sell the alcohol, right? And the grocery stores were closed. Where in one of the states where I was, you had to order. You couldn't go get it, but you could go and get beer. They'd hand it through the window, So as we understand what these effects are in our body, and just even caffeine. I remember when I was real young, and one morning I went, I can't wait to have that cup of coffee, right? And I was in construction. I'm like, okay, I need another cup of coffee, and then another cup of coffee. And the next day I went, wait a minute, this coffee has control over me. I don't like it when things have control over me.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So I made that decision that day I was going to quit. The headache was horrendous. Right? But a couple days and it was gone. And I still like the smell of coffee because it's that emotional sensation, all of that kind of thing from the limbic system, right?
Yeah.
But I know what it does.
Yeah.
And that's where it goes back to value. I value myself more. They use the word worthy a lot. I gave up on worthy. I've read every book on worthy. It really is about value, right? And then valuing why we are here, valuing our soul, which is one of your fields of mastery, if I may say, is working on that level when you're working with people. And I've witnessed you as we've done different programs since the fires, right? And I also just want to commend you, the nonprofit. You were away during the major time of that fire, but you were in the background making things happen, making connections with Jenny from iHands, which is Integrative
Healing Action Network.
A group from California that started this whole wellness thing or holistic healing during the fires in California many years ago.
Right.
And Jenny and you have gotten really close over the years and have helped us a lot with our programs to give restorative care to our healthcare providers, first responders, educators, and community leaders, right?
Yeah. That was such an amazing connection because Jenny had already been through it in her community.
Yeah.
And she helped walk us through so much at that time, right? Connected us with the homeopathic companies that supplied us with a lot of remedies to help our community. I also talked with the head of their homeopathy program, that Kathy, that shared with us what remedies did they use, what did they find was helpful when they were treating after the fires. And it was just incredible, the connection. It was actually the homeopathy that connected me with Jenny. And we created that great program with Jenny as well. And she was so amazing, the wealth of knowledge that she had, because she's already been there. The community had already been there. So she was able to know what we needed in that moment, to connect it to the sources, and what we might need a year, 2 years, 5 years down the line, because I think they were like 5 years down the line, right?
I think
Post
so.
their fires.
Yeah. You know, the point I think that I want to make here too is that even though you were somewhere else when the fires hit and all of that, you worked from the back end or whatever we want to call that. And how valuable it is that we each stay in our boat, keep our oars in the boat, right? Keep our oars in the boat, keep our oars in the boat. Because I'm really a visionary. And when you were talking about details, I'm like, oh my God, choke me. You know, details. You want me to cross that T and dot that I? Are you crazy? Right? Where you push things by you and you're like, oh, you didn't talk. You didn't put the comma in the right place and things like that. I'm like, how do you see that? How do you do that?
Yeah.
Just the value of each one of us, right?
Yeah.
And really staying in that vein, yet learning new things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you've been able to learn even with the nonprofit. You know, you learned so much about grants, and there's a lot of other things. You and our CFO, Craig, have been talking the finance. I remember the first time we did a budget together, and I'm like, my God, you know, I gotta go. And you guys are just like going for it. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. And then you get all done, right? And it's all written up in those forms and everything. And I'm like, this is the most boring thing in the whole wide world. And you two were so excited. Yeah. It was like, my gosh, you know. And so everybody, you, me, you, everybody in your team, your Ohana, everybody has a role that they play, right?
Well, we bring these gifts. I believe that we're born with these gifts, right? We develop the gifts, we find what they are, and they're often linked to what bring us joy. And then we get to share those gifts with the world in whatever way that might be. And I don't know why. I do kind of like doing the numbers and the spreadsheets. I don't know why I do.
You do?
But I kind of like doing the numbers. Like when I was in school when I was younger, I thought I wanted to be a maths teacher actually because I really liked doing the numbers, but really, obviously I work with holistic healthcare now, and I've been working in the healing arts for many years. But that's another gift, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we're given this gift of intuition and being able to understand the body and how the body works, and going back to what you were talking about, working on the soul level.
Yeah.
That's what really holistic healthcare is. It's not just treating the physical body, but really connecting to the soul of a person and really understanding that level. And when you're giving a massage from that space, or wellness advice from that space, or like I teach Atma Kriya Yoga, which is teaching how to connect with the divine soul within through the forms of yoga, using breath, using asanas, and it takes it to another level, right? And I believe we all have these gifts, and it's finding out what is our gifts, which is coming back to understanding who we are, and then sharing them with everybody, giving them away freely, abundantly, and finding joy in that, right? Look for your joy, and you'll find where your gifts are.
Yeah, that pleasure.
Yeah.
Right? Oh my gosh, I just did this, and I'm just like, my cup is absolutely empty because it's so, or it's full because it's empty. It's just like, yes, this is who I am, right?
Well, and having fun as well, because I mean, come
Yeah.
on, we all get so serious, right? If you're working on a project, or especially as a board team, and when we're putting together some of the retreats and things we do, we kind of shine when we're having fun. And I see you shine when you're having fun. You don't like to not be having fun.
No, I do like to
You don't want to show up for a meeting if it's not going to be fun.
Yeah, that's so true. Thank
and I
you.
think it's good for all of us, right?
It is.
I mean, it's serious things that we're dealing with, but yeah, how do we keep happy in that?
When I was first starting after medical school, I was in Bozeman, Montana, and I had a very, very challenging case, and I was walking to the laboratory to take the specimen there, and I had to go through this group of kids, and there was a clown there, and the kids were going to the Shriners doctors, and every time I would walk through, these kids would just laugh, and I had to go back and forth all day. It was a Saturday, and one time when I was going through, they're laughing so hard, and I turned around, and that clown was mimicking me. And I was proper. I had the white coat, had the stethoscope, that whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So I came home, and I contacted him. Peppy the Clown was his name, and he was with Shriners, they've done amazing things in the world. Shriners has for children and families. And I said, I want to study with you. He said, okay. So I studied with him for quite a while, and then he says, I can't teach you anymore. So he sent me to clown college. And that was a long time ago with those old clowns.
Yeah.
Red Skelton wasn't there, but I mean, some of those old clowns, right?
Yeah.
And then we did that for a week or whatever it was. And then we were going on the plane, and I was traveling with someone else, and we dressed in our clown suits, right?
Yeah.
And when we were in the airport, we saw the people that were the captain for the plane and the people that worked on the plane. They're walking in, and everybody's just like I was going down the, with my white coat, my stethoscope, right? So I started mimicking them, right?
Yeah.
And people were just laughing.
Yeah.
And then the police came.
Oh.
And they said, you need to stop.
Oh.
Yeah, this is inappropriate.
Yeah.
So they left. Well, I didn't quite stop. But then they came back, and I went, okay. I mean, they're threatening I can't go on that plane, right? And so we get on the plane, and then we're up in the air, and the pilot says, whatever seat number I was in, something 17, we give you full permission. Have fun.
Nice.
And I'll tell you, we had the best time up there in the air.
Yeah, nice.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody came alive when they started popping into whatever it was, and people were telling jokes, they were singing, all of that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
Me too. I'm going to go back to the energetic medicine because that is something you are really, really getting deeper involved in, right? Homeopathy is energetic. Even flower essences are energetic. They're the bridge between heaven and earth. Flower essences, right? Energetic. Everything's energetic. These tea leaves are energetic. You know,
Right.
I mean, they heal the body. This lemon is energetic. Everything is energetic. But right now, you're dipping into a whole new world for yourself energetically, right?
Yeah.
Which is the evolution of the world, the essence of the earth, which, you know, our talk is about the nature of your nature. But there is this other aspect as we're evolving, which is technology.
Right.
You want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've been studying with a naturopathic doctor and learning about bioresonance for the body. And what that really is about is frequency healing. So when we understand that everything on the planet resonates at a certain frequency, right? Every organ in the body, every pathogen, every virus, every toxin, everything has a frequency. So what the bioresonance machine does is it scans the body, figures out what's going on in your body and where you need the healing. And then we bring in the same resonance that your body needs. And then that's how we bring the body back to health. And it's absolutely fascinating.
It
Absolutely
really
fascinating.
is.
Yeah.
All of that technology. And I remember in medical school, we were introduced to something like that, and it was illegal in the United States at that time. But now there's more and more acceptance in the world, and these machines are coming in from different countries, and some of them are being made in the United States, I'm sure, but especially some of the other countries, right?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a technology that's been used in Europe for like over 40 years now.
40 years.
And in Europe, it's really recognized as a medical device, and you need to have a medical license to be able to operate it. Here in the US, we have it as a wellness device, so that practitioners like myself that don't necessarily have a medical license but have an understanding of the body with homeopathy and my holistic background are able to be trained and use the bioresonance. And, you know, I experienced my own healing with it,
Right,
which
I was
is
just
often
gonna
how
ask.
how it starts, right? So
Yeah.
many things that I've learned along my journey have been where I received the treatment. And I was really sick when I got that treatment. I was in Mexico. I was on a retreat with my guru. And I mean, I was sick in bed for, 8 or 9 days. Fever, temperature, vomiting, you name it, couldn't eat. I was not in a good place. And I was out of the country, and it was not fun. And I was introduced to these doctors, and they did some testing on me. They found out what was going on with me, what viruses I had. And they treated me. And within 24 hours, I was up and out of bed, and I was well. And that was amazing to me because I was so ill. And what we can do with the machine is put the frequency in the water. So they had me drink water for a week. And so I stayed in Mexico for a week longer than I planned, and I stayed at the retreat center, and I drank this water. And it was quite funny because, I lost some weight where I hadn't been eating because I'd been sick, but now I was well, and I sunbathed and played in the ocean. By the time I came home, everybody would said, "Oh, you look fabulous," and they had no idea really how sick I'd been. But that was my introduction to bioresonance, and it was just incredible.
And that's technology, and it's a useful tool.
Yeah.
But we can also just use our hands, right?
Yeah.
Working with the energy.
Yeah.
Everything is energetic.
Yeah.
And that doesn't cost the time,
No.
right?
That's right. And in fact, when I first came to Maui, my friend Swami Shiradar, we met and connected really over healing touch. And I was already doing Reiki, and then he said, "Have you heard of healing touch?" And I'm like, "No." And then he started telling me about it, and I took all my healing touch training here on Maui, other than my final 5th course, which was on Oahu. And I worked with Kaiser Permanente for over 10 years, running the volunteer healing touch program there. And you're quite right. It's just the healing touch of the hands.
It is.
And being able to feel the sensitivities of the human energy field and understanding what the energy needs. And our energy has its own intelligence. So you don't even have to know, like, what do I need to do with this? You just hold the intention in the space, and that intelligent energy will know how to heal itself.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. I
Yeah.
remember being
Yeah.
paged in the hospital here on Maui. This was years ago, decades ago, and
Yeah.
went to the ICU, and one of my patients was in cardiac issues, and I just held her hand, and then I just started humming, and then this person behind me said, "What are you doing?" And I turned around. I didn't know this person, and they said, "Whatever you're doing, continue doing it, because look at all the stats."
Yeah.
And I ended up going to Oahu
Yeah.
with them, just holding the hand and just that gentle hum.
Yeah.
And then they were over to, we arrived into Oahu. They took care of that person, and that's just that energetic field, right?
Yeah. And it's really, again, it comes back to love. I remember having a facial client, and after my treatment, she said to me, "Your heart is in your hands."
Oh, wow.
And I could feel that in my treatment today.
Wow.
Thank you. And that's one of the nicest quotes I've ever heard after giving a facial. You know, they can feel the love in your hands, you know. Even when we're working with trauma, I remember being on Oahu and there being a critical patient, and I was asked, you know, is there any healing touch people on Oahu? And I just happened to be there with my family, and, you know, I went to the hospital, and this person had been in a terrible car accident. They were in such a bad way. And I went and did the healing touch that I could to help them. And, you know, I did the best that I could, right? And then several months later, I was working at the clinic at Kaiser, and they came to get me and said, "Maria, this lady wants to see you." And I came out. So when she was in hospital, I mean, 2 broken legs, broken ribs, you know, really in a bad way. And this woman walked towards me and she said, "I want to thank you. I was the patient in Oahu that you came and did healing touch." And although we didn't even converse much because she was in such a bad way, she remembered the impact of the healing touch that we gave to her that day, and came back all those months later to thank me.
Isn't
you know,
that
because it was
lovely?
so powerful.
Yeah.
So you never know when you're really helping someone. You know.
Yeah. And the thing that when you're doing this energetic medicine, what it does it brings us back.
Right.
We're more aware.
Yeah.
Because we're aligned with whatever it is that we believe in, or that whole thing.
Yeah.
And then as we make each step a prayer, and every word a word of love, it's just easy.
There it is. Yeah.
And doors just open.
Yeah.
Open right up, right?
Well, it's about intention, right? It's about the loving intention, and then it's about attention. Where we pay our attention is where the energy goes, right? Yeah.
So true. And even when we're working, like what you're doing with or when you were doing the healing touch, and like what I was with that person with the cardiac issue, there was the element of attention. Okay, this is a heart issue, right? And that was broken bones issue, trauma.
Yeah.
But the whole being, as we work with the whole being, holistic.
Right.
And I've really been playing with that word so much because we were taught holistic is WHOLIST, but things have changed. It's HOL, which is whole, like a hole in the ground, you know?
Yeah.
But and I know that's all just part of that system, and I've had to let it go. But I'm going to stick with the whole.
Yeah.
You know, you are a whole being. You have this body. This is the place you live. This is your body. This is where you live. There's a spirit there. There's a soul there. And there's a mind here that has its energies. And how do we bring those all together so that they can dance?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. And when you said in the very beginning, you know, when food, that's probably one of the biggest drugs that we have. Go and get a processed food that is heavy in MSG, monosodium glutamate. You're going to check out.
Well, and even meat eating, you know, my spiritual teacher, Paramahamsa Vishwananda, he says we will not see peace on the planet until people stop eating meat. 'Cause meat. Because you have to understand when you eat meat, you're eating the energetics of the animal that you're eating. The animals aren't here for us to eat, you know. And he talks very actively about the need to not be eating meat in our diets. But that's not the general diet. Most people are eating a very meat-based diets, and there's health complications from that, for sure.
The plant diet definitely offers a smoother road to wellness, right?
Yeah, definitely. And we have a lot more awareness around that now as well.
We
have
sure
a lot
do.
more plant-based opportunities, and if you need to taste your meat, there's plant-based meat products out there that they're trying to make it taste like meat. You know? It's just kind of crazy, right? When Mother Nature gives us everything, you know, vegetables and, you know, fruits and, you know, plants.
I love to say, eat a rainbow every day.
Yeah.
Right, and right now I'm taking care of a garden, and the other morning there was purple cabbage and red chard and kale, and I just looking at them, oh my gosh, my body has done so well with it. Inflammation has decreased, and even when I was coming to town today, I'm like, okay, can you get some things that cost money? I don't need anything. I got everything I need. But then that part of me that loves potato chips, that's been my addiction over the years. I went, you know, it'll be all right. And that's where I had to tame this mind and say, you know what, it's not okay. No. You know what it does to your body. Yeah.
It's overcoming those desires, right? Because we get pulled by those. Yeah.
And the body will become what you eat. So a potato looks like a potato, you know, kind of fluffy and round, right? That's what happens to our bodies when we eat that. That's called the doctrine of signature. I brought an avocado from the land, and when we think about the avocado, what does it look like? It looks like the womb, right? And it's a great, I like to call it a medicine. It is food for the womb, right?
Yeah, lots of healthy oils in there too.
The kind of oils that we can digest properly, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So when you're thinking about if you could bring one thing to people that they could utilize in their activities of daily living, right? They go home and this is something that they can utilize today. What would you give them? What tip would you give them? One simple thing. And then we can look at maybe more, but one.
That's a tough one, but I think for me, what's been really powerful for me is learning mantra and learning how to do japa with the beads and learning how to just repeat a mantra to yourself and really taming the mind. Like the more you calm the mind, the more your body. So if it's telling yourself, I am well, I am safe, I am happy, or whether you want to dive deeper into some of the Sanskrit mantras that are out there. We have a mantra, Shri Vitala Giridhari Parabrahmane Namaha. And that's a Maha mantra given by our spiritual teacher, Paramahamsa Vishwananda. And it's incredible. The mantras for the mind. It's health for the mind.
And what happens when you're doing the mantra, which is the same thing as, let's say, reading the scripture or whatever out of a book or whatever, is that you breathe. Right? Yeah. Breath is our contract to life. That tree doesn't stop breathing. Humans can stop. We can control our breathing, and with trauma especially, the fight and flight can set up, right? And then we don't breathe with our belly, we breathe with our chest, right?
Yeah.
So as we are speaking, you can only say so many words, and you have to take a breath, right? Yeah.
Well, breath is life, right?
Breath is life. Aloha. Right?
Yeah.
From the heavens we share our breath.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the trees do that every day.
Yeah.
Every plant that is out there growing right now has an aura.
Right.
And when we give thanks for the food, gratitude for these things, like I ate some greens this morning, and I just said, thank you, right?
Yeah. Beautiful.
They go into my body.
Yeah.
And the results are significant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So why don't you share again your website?
Okay, my website is mariagoldwellness.com.
It's really easy, mariagoldwellness.com. And you're just getting a new website design that's beautiful. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and as you all are evolving these days, trust the process, I would say. Trust the process.
Yeah.
And ask for help. Ask for help. And if you're scared to ask for help, ask for help.
Yeah.
Right? There's going to be somebody, whether it's a person in the grocery line or even a tree.
Yeah.
I had a situation the other day, and they said, just go hug a tree, Valerie. I went, oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just get grounded. Yeah.
Get grounded.
Yeah.
Listen to the natural rhythm of the earth. Become that natural rhythm of the earth.
Yeah.
That is our nature.
Yeah.
And when we start getting ahead of ourselves, that's when things happen, such as fall off that step or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. Well, and I want to thank you as well, because you've been the doctor for my family since before my daughter was born. So thank you for all the help you've given the family and all the help you give to our community. We're very blessed to have you walk among us.
Thank you.
And really lead us too. Thank you. Yeah.
And with the few minutes left that we have, left, our nonprofit, You Know More, has served 1,976 documented people.
Wow.
And that doesn't include all the people that we didn't write down, right? And every one of those people touch at least 5 people.
Right.
So with our nonprofit, we have helped hundreds of thousands of people in Maui. And it's all been through private donations, right?
Nice. Yes.
And globally as well.
Fabulous.
Isn't that wonderful?
Amazing.
Because that's what it's all about, is collaboration with like what we're doing with Jenny and Maui Medics and all of these organizations where we all are in right where we need to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Beautiful.
And with that, though, it's guaranteed we're changing.
Yeah.
So right now we're going to change it up and we're going to call it an end. Thanks again, Maria. The nature of your nature.
Thank you.
You know more. Here we go.
Maui Police Department has launched its 2025 Citizen Survey to gather community feedback and improve public safety services. The goal of the brief, anonymous online survey is to assess public perception and identify areas for improvement. Community members are encouraged to participate by completing the survey online at mauicounty.checkboxonline.com.